Welcome viewers to Historical Journeys. Strolling into the Egyptian workmanship displays of the Brooklyn Gallery is a chance to see items and relics that are thousands of years old. Among them are old models with an unquestionable style. However, if you take a closer look, you might notice something odd about these statues. A significant number of them have sooner or later lost their noses. Additionally, experts discovered the sinister explanation for why so many Egyptian statues no longer have noses. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It only takes a second, and you won't miss any of our future videos. Let's get started. Although it may appear to be a minor detail, the absence of a nose is actually a defining characteristic of Egyptian sculpture. Despite the fact that they were not intended to be noseless, they were ended eventually in their long history. Edward Blaber, caretaker of the Brooklyn Gallery, told CNN in WALK 2019 that he thinks the most well-known question at any point asked is what has been going on with the nose. After all, these sculptures have gotten through wars, bad weather, and long trips to different museums around the world. In any case, Blaber has led research that proposes the reasons for D-nose are considerably more perplexing. Since experts like Blaber concentrated on a craft of this time, it is conceivable that a portion of the sculptures were unintentionally harmed. Obviously, this is particularly valid for those with especially enormous noses that jut from the face and are hence effectively impacted. For sculptures that have been intentionally vandalized because of multiple factors, a specialist should recognize them. Besides, this additionally doesn't make sense of why a few Egyptian-level works of art have raised noses. Antiquated Egypt was quite possibly the earliest incredible human progress of humanity, and large numbers of its landmarks have made do right up till now. The most popular images incorporate huge development undertakings like the pyramids and the incomparable Sphinx of Giza, perhaps of the most renowned noseless sculpture. As a matter of fact, the Sphinx shows up in Greek and Asian practices as well as in Old Egypt. As a matter of fact, there are a few Egyptian sphinxes that have become especially renowned. One is made of alabaster and was tracked down in the city of Memphis, Egypt, where the sanctuary of the remastered time is found. The other is granite and has been moved to the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. It is surprising in light of the fact that it is the substance of his boats, who was the leader of Egypt. However, the enormous statue next to the Great Pyramid of Giza is probably the most well-known Sphinx. At 66 feet tall and 240 feet in length, the Sphinx is quite possibly of the biggest sculpture on the planet. His child pharaoh Khafre is behind the development of the Sphinx. Khafre's have pyramids as well, but theirs are 10 feet taller. The agnostics appear to make up for the Little Pyramid by setting different sculptures around their landmark, one of which is the Sphinx. A few researchers accept that the development of the pyramid and the sculpture is to urge the divine beings to restore the agnostics after their passing. You might ask why we accept the Sphinx is agnostic. Some come from unearthings in the 1900 years, when a French paleologist named Auguste Mariette investigated the sanctuary in the valley close to the Sphinx. He discovered a pagan statue that looked like the Sphinx there. Mariette tracks down away from the morgue close to the pyramid of Khafre to the sanctuary of the valley. It are associated with demonstrate that they. At the beginning of the 20th century, a different French scholar by the name of Émile Barras continued this work and discovered the ruins of a valley temple that was very similar to the Temple of the Sphinx. He named it the Temple of the Sphinx. The Sphinx is right behind these vestiges. As archaeologists, they keep on attempting to address the secret of the Sphinx. It was a significant endeavor to construct the Sphinx, and specialists accept not all laborers came as far as possible. Exhumed device remains and disposed of lunchboxes propose individuals left rapidly. And analysts determined that even with 100 laborers, the Sphinx would have required quite a long while to construct. Thusly, one more significant inquiry concerning the Sphinx is the name that the Egyptians gave the sculpture. The Greek word for Sphinx did not become popular until thousands of years later. It is realized that the significance of the Sphinx blurred after some time, And there is a tale about Thutmose, the leader of Egypt, who needed to cover the sculpture with sand. Subsequently, many pictures of the Sphinx spread all through the area as artworks and figures, and notwithstanding many models, artistic creations additionally came to represent the force of the sun. This period was brief, in any case, as the Sphinx was not generally loved. The limestone disintegrated, and portions of his facial hair and cap were severed. As a matter of fact, when obviously the Sphinx's nose had vanished. The main endeavor to conceal the Sphinx was ineffective, in spite of the endeavors of 160 fighters, drove by Genoese chief Giovanni Battista. Things have become exceptionally confounding from that point forward, and there have been numerous speculations throughout the long term about what has been going on with the Sphinx's nose. And except it was lost because of a gun blast during the Napoleonic conflicts. Yet, before Napoleon came to Egypt, there was an image of a sculpture with a short nose. This implies that Egypt was annihilated sometime in the past, for instance in the 15th 100 years. Islam has been the prevailing power in Egypt since the Bedouin triumph in the 700 years. This religion rejects excessive admiration, the making and revering the painted pictures of the divine beings. For this reason, strict symbols were obliterated around them, and these articles were of extraordinary profound significance to individuals of antiquated Egypt. What's more, religion can likewise make sense of why a few icons were profaned before the coming of Islam. Sanctuaries in Old Egypt were the sculptures of perished precursors, where families made contributions like mirrors for the great beyond, or blossoms to represent resurrection, and incense to make blessed scent. Additionally, people sought assistance from the deceased, some of whom, according to contemporaneous letters, have remained alive to this day. The old Egyptians made icons of divine beings and people that had an otherworldly reason. Additionally, artifacts were buried in tombs to aid the deceased in receiving gifts from the living. Obviously, the fine art covered in these burial places was rarely seen by the overall population. Frequently, these pictures interface our reality to the heavenly world occupied by the divine beings. A model is the portrayal of pharaohs making contributions to symbols. As a matter of fact, the icons were significant, not on the grounds that their obliteration was a trifling demonstration, however, for the purpose of upsetting the relationship found among man and the divine beings, so the divine beings couldn't live in symbols. Like a living individual, the removal of the nose is ineffective. This is a method for killing a foe, or a way for a grave looter to safeguard himself from the irate spirits of the graves he has drawn. The hands, for instance, were removed from the statue in order not to give a gift or a gift. Other parts of the statue have been damaged for some reason. As a matter of fact, this method was not just utilized on sculptures of the dead. Students of history likewise tracked down it on damaged old mummies. In fact, some pharaohs persecuted negative images because they believed that the T's power was extremely dangerous. There is no question that the pharaohs would have rather not been in that frame of mind of the little realms. All things being equal, deleting the picture of their progenitors is their approach to affirming power and changing the past. One of the clearest models is the evacuation of all pictures of the two incredible Egyptian sovereigns, Nefertiti and Sheps. One of the political issues that the Egyptian royal family uses to influence their art is sexuality. As of now, every one of the changes of Pharaoh Kensington were dropped by his relatives. Kennington obliterated the symbols of the god to say that the god was the primary divine force of the Egyptians, and his child mishandled him and returned individuals to popularity. Be that as it may, two pictures of Kennington's significant other and their god were eliminated. For instance, numerous sculptures are encircled by walls on three sides to shield them from assault. So when Egypt obliterated a portion of the T, it wasn't simply something terrible. At times, the engravings were additionally obliterated, making sense of why a few sculptures were annihilated, while others met their destiny later, as the lawbreakers knew how to peruse which sculptures were broken. The old Egyptians had similar regard for icons, albeit not all countries followed something similar. You might, for instance, Inquire as to why Christians did not demolish idols, despite Muslims' belief that the objects lacked power. Indeed, showing some unacceptable figures was an approach to showing his own power and showing the weakness of the Egyptian lords of the time. In the 7th century, Islamic forces conquered Egypt and used ancient statues as building materials. Another structure was based on top of the old mosque, and the old compositions can in any case be found in the Cairo area. Albeit every age has various thoughts regarding icons, it appears to be that every age has the reason for despoiling and annihilating them. Blaber made another program called Strike Power, a spot to introduce the consequences of your examination. The management of ancient Egyptian plasmas, artifacts that date back to the 25th century BC and 1st century AD and depict statues that were altered and preserved simultaneously in order to make their purpose clear. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay updated with our latest videos, subscribing is the way to go. Just click that red button below and become a part of our channel family.